The following video is sponsored by NordVPN. Stick around till the end of the video to hear more, and you can always use the top link in the description, as well as promo code 91tech to get 75% off. Windows XP, undoubtedly the best software ever to hit humanity, and already 18 years old. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91tech, and today we're going to be trying to game on Windows XP. This should be fun. Recently I did a video on trying to use Windows XP 18 years later, and I forgot to install drivers, so things were fairly screwy. That being said, I think overall everything was a success. I mean, we got everything running for the most part. I just found myself fairly limited with what Windows XP could do nowadays, and one of those things was Steam. That being said, today I wanted to have some fun and see what we can do when it comes to gaming on Windows XP. That's something that I think pretty much no one does anymore, but I am curious to see how far we can push it, so today we're going to do that. We're going to try lots of different games from early 2000s to 2005 era to 2010, and then we're also going to try some modern ones just to see if we can run any. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be, so I'm going to have timestamps to all the games in the description if you're curious and want to skip ahead. But with that out of the way, let's start by talking about the PC. We have a beautiful unit here with a number of powerful components that'll make our gaming experience like none other. The AMD Athlon 2 X3 440 processor, 4 GB of DDR3 RAM, a 250 watt power supply, a 250 GB SSD, and an optical drive. And yeah, that's it. This computer isn't going to live up to Linus Tech Tip standards, but for what we need to do, it should be okay. It's only running Windows XP after all. That being said, integrated graphics is going to probably be our biggest bottleneck even after I install drivers, as well, it's an old AMD processor. I mean, I don't think we can expect much from it. So yeah, integrated graphics, not great, and that's why we're going to cheat. Say hello to the GTX 750 Ti. It isn't mine, it's my friend's old GPU that he lent to me. Shout out to Matthew, he also helped me with this video. Anyhow, the 700 series of NVIDIA processors are basically the newest to be supported by Windows XP, as they were released in 2013 and Microsoft officially dropped support for XP in 2014. Mind you, the 750 Ti is not the best GPU you could run on Windows XP. For that, you could go up to the 780 Ti, or if you were absolutely insane, you could go for the NVIDIA GTX Titan or Titan X. But I don't have $750 to drop on a Titan X. I kid you not, they're still that expensive, at least on Vancouver Craigslist. Anyways, there are drivers available for this GPU, so we shouldn't have too many issues, at least with the general setup. Plus, this graphics card is actually pretty good. It should be enough to run anything from Roller Coaster Tycoon all the way to, honestly, probably Fortnite if it was capable of running on Windows XP, which I don't think it is, but we will try later. But first, let's install the video card. If you've done this before, you know how easy it is. It's essentially plug and play, as the video card just slides into the PCIe slots. Once that's done, we just need to plug it into the power supply. Now there's a small problem with all of this, and do you know what it is? Earlier I mentioned that the power supply was only 250 watts, which leaves us 250 watts to power the entire computer, plus a half-decent graphics card. So, is that going to be enough? Now you might be thinking, no, that's obviously not enough, you need to get a better power supply. And at first I agreed with you. That being said, on the box of the GTX 750 Ti, it recommends only a 300 watt power supply, which meant that this might actually work okay on a 250 watt power supply, considering that the specs in the computer itself are not that high. So yeah, I guess we'll just have to plug it into the regular power supply. And then I realized it actually doesn't plug into the power supply. It's just powered by the motherboard. Someone was probably noticing that when I said we needed to plug it in earlier. The motherboard powers it all together. So yeah, we're just gonna try and run with this power supply and see if it works. If it crashes and all that, so then I guess I'll have to look for a better one, but hopefully it will be okay. Keep in mind, this is never something I'd recommend doing when it comes to your own personal computer. You should always make sure you have a bigger power supply than necessary, just to be safe. But for this, I mean, I'm not actually going to be using this computer for very long, so I don't think it matters. That being said, let's try to boot this thing up and see what happens. Okay, so the computer boots up in like 10 seconds because it's insanely fast, and bam, we're in. All we have to do is install drivers and we can get going. Okay, so we're working. Now we need to get Steam working, and that might be a problem because Steam isn't supported by Windows XP. That being said, there are a few runarounds on YouTube and whatnot how to get it working, as older versions still did support Windows XP. So I found somebody who must have cracked Steam, I guess you could say, in the sense that it never tries to update, and it works on Windows XP. So I downloaded his files, and sure enough, Steam was working absolutely fine, and bam! Wow, we already have Steam. That was fast. And so I'm going to start downloading some games such as Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, Half-Life, Half-Life 2, etc, etc. And while that's happening, we're going to try to play some Minecraft. So I downloaded the latest version of Java 7, which is something I failed to do last time. And now that all the graphics issues were sorted out, as I have all the drivers necessary for the 750 Ti, we should be able to play Minecraft without any issue. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So I was playing on Minecraft 1.11.2, as that is the latest version supported by Windows XP. If I'm wrong, maybe correct me on that, but I don't think I am. And yeah, I mean, it works fine. It's Minecraft. There's not a lot to say. I could turn up the render distance fairly high before it would start to get super duper laggy, but I was pushing a consistent 60 frames per second without too much issue, so that was nice to see.
There was a problem I noticed pretty quickly, however. Certain chunks wouldn't load until I walked over to them, and even then sometimes it would take a little while, so it essentially looked like you were just standing on the void, even though, you know, there was grass or whatever there. Now I'm guessing this is a problem with the CPU. Java is very intensive for a computer, or at least it can be when it comes to Minecraft, and I'm guessing the CPU just wasn't up to handling the render distance I had it at, while the graphics card was obviously more than enough. So I think that was just all that was happening. Overall, Minecraft was totally playable, unfortunately just in an older version.
Okay, Roller Coaster Tycoon has downloaded, and so let's try to play that. Now, Roller Coaster Tycoon was a huge game for me when I was a kid. I dumped way too many hours into it, so I'm kind of excited to play it, or at least I was until it failed to load. I don't know what's happening here, but everything graphically kind of bugged out, and after quite a bit of Googling on Google, I unfortunately couldn't figure out what the problem was. Luckily, I managed to find the disc copy I had of Roller Coaster Tycoon. I think it came with a cereal box originally, which would explain the General Mills logo on the disc. I remember getting a few games like that. They came in cereal boxes. I wish they still did that. That would be really cool. Anyways, I installed everything, and shockingly, the game loaded up with no problems. I don't know why the Steam version didn't work. My guess is that it was designed for later OSs, given that it was on Steam, or otherwise I have no idea. It really should have worked, but Roller Coaster Tycoon has tended to be finicky for me on other computers as well, so I played for a fair while to the point that I had to stop myself because I realized I need to play other games for the video. Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 is a classic, and if you haven't played it before, you're really missing out. I believe it's even on iOS, which is really cool, but yeah, it didn't work from Steam, but the disc copy did, so at least I got to play it a bit. Also, just want to point something out. You may have noticed the dark spot on the monitor in the bottom right corner. That kind of randomly appeared a couple days after the original round of filming, and I'm not exactly sure why. The monitor is probably around 10 years old, so I mean, it is about time that problems would start to occur. Regardless, if you notice some inconsistencies in that dark spot with filming, it's just because I filmed some of these games at different times. Anyways, now let's move to another disc game, and one of my favorites when I was younger, Battlefield 2. I still have the old discs, so I loaded up the game and it was running great. Like a lot of these older games, there were absolutely no problems, and I was wrecking the bots. I would have tried online, but there's some extra steps required for that, and besides, I would have been destroyed. I'm really not that good. Anyways, Battlefield 2 runs great, as you would expect, and I was having a lot of fun. I love this game. It's really great. Moving to another disc-based game, we have Lego Indiana Jones 2. As mentioned earlier, my friend helped me out with this video, and he brought a game for PC to try, specifically Lego Indiana Jones 2. It installed absolutely no problem and played just as well. Pretty much any less intensive type game like this is perfect for this computer, and everything ran as you would expect. There are some advantages of having optical drives nowadays, in that you get to play some older classics like this, although I have no idea how it would play on my Windows 10 PC. It ran really great on XP, as you would think it would. Next, for disc games, we have Need for Speed. I found it in my closet. I have no recollection of buying this. I'd assume my dad did back in the day at some point, and hey, I bet it'll run pretty well with Windows XP. As you can see, it's Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious on how the gameplay is. I faintly remember trying it years ago, but I don't remember that much. I named my racer and got into my red Corvette. I find it cool that you can spin the model of the car. It's a nice touch. The actual race was
pretty fun too, although extremely easy. The mechanics of the game actually felt pretty good, even with the arrow keys, although it was, again, very easy and very arcadey. Not that I was expecting a huge simulator experience from Need for Speed 3. But anyways, I came in first, so, you know, I'm basically a pro. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, fun game, and very playable on Windows XP. I think that's about it for what I have on disc, so now we're going to move to Steam, and we'll start with a absolute classic when it comes to these older PCs, Half-Life. Half-Life came out in the late 90s, and it was a game that many would have played to death on either Windows 98, XP, 95, whatever, and so of course it should be able to run on XP without any problems, and yeah, that's exactly what happened. I was able to set the resolution to 1080p, and it was all working quite well. The intro sequence kind of dragged on, but as you can see, it's running very smoothly here, and once I finally got to the bridge, I wanted to see if I could jump off, and turns out I could, and I died, and I didn't really want to play anymore, so that's enough to show that Half-Life works. Let's move to Half-Life 2. Similar to Half-Life, Half-Life 2 booted immediately and without trouble. It actually ran natively at 1080p, which was nice to see, and I honestly forgot how good looking Half-Life 2 is. It doesn't look like a game that came from 2004, at least in my opinion. It ran at around 250 frames per second, which I think is safe to say pretty darn good. Half-Life 2, like its older brother, was a complete success. So why stop with the Source Engine games here? Let's go to Portal. Portal is an awesome game, and it's also quite old, being from 2007. As expected, it ran amazingly at 1080p, pushing close to 300 frames per second, which may have been slightly excessive. Regardless, I played through for a while and had absolutely no hiccups. These older Valve games are really well optimized from what I've seen, but to continue the trend, let's go to Portal 2. Portal 2 by default had me at 1080p, which is always a good sign. Getting into the game, we immediately had a perfect, steady 60 frames per second. I played through an entire puzzle, and that was pretty great. I then checked the settings, and sure enough, VSync was on, and after that we had much more variability in the frame rate. We seemed to land in numbers ranging from about the mid to late 100s in game, which was pretty impressive, but enough from Portal 2. Let's move to Counter-Strike Global Offensive. This is a classic game when it comes to testing PCs, so I downloaded it and I started things up. I kept settings at the highest possible at first and tried to load in a multiplayer game, and it crashed. Oops, I lowered some graphical settings and tried a game against bots, and that actually worked just fine. Hoping I had fixed things, I again tried multiplayer, and again we crashed. I'm not sure what the problem here is, but sadly CSGO did not work online, and I don't know why. Offline worked just fine though, so I mean, if you really want to play CSGO on Windows XP, you can, just not against actual people, which is fine because I'm better than bots and not real people, so I guess there's a bright side to it. And now we're gonna play the most requested game from people when it comes to these older video games, being San Andreas. On Twitter I asked what people want to see, and GTA San Andreas was the most common answer. Also Twitter at 91_tech, Instagram too, so you should go follow me over there, please and thanks. But anyway, yeah, GTA San Andreas. It's worth mentioning here, I've never played a Grand Theft Auto game before, like at all, so I have no idea what to do other than, I guess, steal a car. Immediately I was able to up the resolution to 1080p, and once I got in game, things were running pretty smoothly. That said, I was locked at 26 frames per second, and going into settings, I was able to turn off the frame limiter. From here, the frame rate jumped around a lot, but we averaged around 60 frames per second, which is perfect for a game like this. I'll be honest, I didn't play any missions, but I did drive around and at one point stole a very German Volkswagen bus, which was pretty fun. This game ran perfectly smoothly, and if I had to guess, this computer could run GTA 4 as well, and possibly even 5 if GTA 5 is capable of running on Windows XP. But I think I'm pretty much done with GTA, so what's next? Well, let's turn to Bethesda. I want to start with Fallout New Vegas, as when it comes to Fallout games, that's the one I have played the most besides 4, and unfortunately we had some problems. It just wouldn't load. We kept getting this error and I couldn't figure a way around it. It wouldn't even get me to the launcher. I don't know what was wrong specifically, and looking online again wasn't really much of a help, but yeah, I couldn't play Fallout New Vegas, which kind of sucks. So I went to Fallout 3, which I haven't played as much as New Vegas, but I have played, and so I opened it and it was actually working right away. No idea why it did and New Vegas didn't, but I guess I'm not complaining. It doesn't make any sense to me because I'm pretty sure these are pretty much the exact same game when it comes to a surface level. It's the same engine and everything, but oh well. The game set my quality settings at ultra by default, which was nice to see. I loaded up the game and I was in. I named my character Jim Pickens and then I chose my stats appropriately. I then proceeded to play through the entire vault segment just so I could see how the game ran outside the vault, and once we finally got there, things seemed fairly stable. Frame rates would dip a bit, but I was generally stuck around around 60 frames per second. Ironically, this is probably the smoothest experience I've ever had playing Fallout 3, as it tends to crash on my main PC every 10 to 20 minutes or so. There's no issues here, and I was actually kind of having a good time, but unfortunately we need to move on to the next game. I wanted to stick with Bethesda here, because why not? So we're gonna go to Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Released in 2006, this was a perfect game to test on Windows XP. If for whatever reason didn't recognize my hardware and was unsure of how to set the graphical quality, which is especially strange because Fallout 3 knew just fine, but whatever. I guess Fallout 3 is a little bit newer, so maybe that's why. I set the settings to Ultra and loaded an old save, and yeah, it was working fine. Frame rates did dip below 60 frames quite a few times, but if I lowered the settings, I'd imagine it would be better. I randomly attacked someone, ran around for a while, and I think that was about enough to determine that Oblivion indeed ran well. Overall, I think these older Bethesda games are really hit and miss, which honestly, newer Bethesda games are kind of like that too. It's just the way that they're designed isn't particularly good when it comes to PC versions, and honestly console versions too. They're just really buggy games, so you never know what you're gonna get. But yeah, I think I'm pretty much done with some of these older games, so we're gonna actually try to play some newer ones and see if we can. Let's go to a absolute classic of a modern title. I would consider this game an iconic masterpiece. Goat Simulator. Yeah, Goat Simulator surprisingly ran fine at 1080p. Like, really fine. Like, it ran absolutely fine. Until everything started breaking anyway. Pieces of the map just disappeared. Things turned different colors, and everything was kind of just a mess. And honestly, I think if anything, it actually added to the game. So, Goat Simulator on Windows XP, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Honestly, it was great. Moving to an actual new game that isn't a joke, we have Rocket League. Rocket League is a very popular game and is well known for being runnable on lower spec PCs. Unfortunately, upon trying to play it, nothing would happen. Like, actually nothing would happen. I'd hit play and nothing would open no matter how many times I hit play again. No idea why. My guess is that it just doesn't work with Windows XP. So, unfortunately, no Rocket League today. Overwatch. I want to try Overwatch, so I downloaded the Blizzard installer, and yeah, it didn't even open, so I guess no Overwatch either, unfortunately. Let's try another newer game, Fortnite. It's a title that runs on lower spec PCs pretty well, but first I need to get the Epic Game Launcher working, which I couldn't because it requires DirectX 11, which isn't compatible with Windows XP. So without Epic, I can't even get close to Fortnite. Not that it would work on here anyways. If we were running Windows 10, I honestly think we could play Fortnite no problem, but unfortunately XP just isn't capable. And with Fortnite not working, I think I'm pretty much done testing games. We've played quite a few at this point, and frankly, I need to go to bed. I'm sorry if one of your favorite older games didn't get played. The Sims was recommended a lot. I just didn't own it and didn't feel like buying it. There's a lot of great old games, and I'd love to play more of them, but I think for this video, I'm pretty much done with games. If you want to see more videos on Windows XP in the future, I don't know what else I could do, but let me know. The other option, of course, is doing videos on like Windows Vista or Windows 98. That would be kind of fun, and I have a PC that's perfectly ready for it, so maybe we will at some point. But anyways, we've played lots of games. What did we learn from all this? Well, I don't think you need a crazy good PC to be able to game. Even if you have older hardware, with a half-decent graphics card like the $50-ish GTX 750 Ti, you can run even newer games with relative ease, assuming you're not on Windows XP, that is. Obviously, modern games were never going to work the way I wish they would, but it was still an interesting experience, and it was kind of cool that some older games, I'm looking at you, Fallout 3, ran better on Windows XP than they did on my actual gaming PC. Mind you, results will vary. Don't go out and get a Windows XP computer just to play Fallout 3. Odds are it's not going to work the way you want. It's an extremely buggy game. Windows XP is iconic, but it's also a dead platform. As mentioned in my last video, you shouldn't use XP anymore. Without security updates, you're pretty much exposed to any kind of malicious content or tracking of any kind. Not that Windows 10 is that much better, or even Mac, or your iPhone or Android or anything really. Thanks to the internet, you can be tracked anywhere, anytime, which is where today's sponsor NordVPN comes in. NordVPN is extremely robust, with over 5,200 servers in over 60 countries that are updated weekly. There is no data logging. NordVPN doesn't care what you're looking at, unlike pretty much everyone else on the internet. NordVPN is light, it's fast, it works, there's 24/7 customer support, and it's not just about privacy too. If you want to access American Netflix or Canadian Netflix or UK Netflix or any Netflix, you can do that with NordVPN. NordVPN has unlimited bandwidth, it's fast, it's efficient, there's really nothing to complain about. If you go to the top link in the description and use coupon code 91tech, you'll get 75% off a 3-year plan plus 1 extra free month. That's only $2.99 per month
for 3 years. That is an insane deal. Huge thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Again, top link of the description, promo code 91tech. So yeah, honestly, I was pretty happy with how this went. It was a lot of fun to go back to a lot of these old games. Very, very nostalgic. I wasn't really sure how this video would turn out, and I know it's kind of just, really, it's just a trip down memory lane for a lot of this because the computer's completely overkill, at least the graphics card is. But I hope you had fun, because I did. And with that being said, I think we're pretty much done here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you go check out NordVPN. Link at the top of the description. Huge thanks to them for sponsoring this video and making it possible in the first place. If you found this video interesting or enjoyable, you can always hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. And you can always follow me on Twitter and Instagram too, at 91_tech if you want to for some reason. And with that all being said, I'm Josh from 91tech, and I will see you all next time.